A couple of weeks ago, Justice Scalia's passing underscored for all of us the stakes of this election. It is not one branch of government that's at stake, but two. We are one left-wing justice away from a radical 5-justice liberal majority, the likes of which this court has never seen. We are one liberal justice away from the Supreme Court taking away every one of our religious liberties. We are one justice away from the Supreme Court effectively erasing the Second Amendment from the Bill of Rights. We are one liberal justice away from the Supreme Court making us subject to the World Court and the United Nations and international law and giving away U.S. sovereignty. Now, at the debate last week, Donald Trump turned. When he was asked about the Supreme Court and religious liberty, he said, "Ted, I've known a lot more politicians than you have." Well, you know what? In that, he's right. He's been supporting left-wing Democratic politicians for 4 decades. Yeah. And he said, when it comes to the Supreme Court, when it comes to religious liberty, he said, "Ted, you got to be prepared to compromise. You got to be prepared to cut a deal with the Democrats. You got to be prepared to find a middle ground." Well, let me be very, very clear to the men and women of Idaho. I will not compromise away your religious liberty. Second Amendment right to keep it. You have my solemn commitment that every justice I put on the Supreme Court will be a principled constitutionalist, faithful to the law, who will ferociously defend the Bill of Rights for your children and for mine. Issue in this election is security. For 7 years, we've seen a president who abandons and alienates our allies and who shows weakness and appeasement to our enemies. At the debate last week, Donald Trump said he would, as president, be neutral between Israel and the Palestinians. Well, let me be very, very clear. As president, I will not be neutral. America will stand unapologetically with the nation of Israel. In over 7 years, we have seen this administration weakening our military, undermining our readiness. We've seen morale in the military plummeting, with a commander-in-chief that does not believe in their mission and does not back them up. Our country's faced this before. We've had another left-wing Democratic president, Jimmy Carter, that weakened the military. And in 1981, Ronald Reagan came into office. Reagan cut taxes and lifted regulations, and the economy took off. Small businesses exploded. Millions of high-paying jobs were created. That generated trillions of new revenue for the federal government. He used that money to rebuild the military, and we bankrupted the Soviet Union and won the Cold War. Apparently they just called that we won Maine. What an incredible day this is. We are going to do the exact same thing as Ronald Reagan and defeat radical Islamic terrorism. We are going to unleash the remarkable engine of the American free enterprise system, rebuild our military so it remains the mightiest fighting force on the face of the planet. And no longer will our military be governed by political correctness. We'll have a president who stands up and says to the world, we will defeat radical Islamic terrorism. We'll have a president willing to utter the words, radical Islamic terrorism. And you know, one of the most shameful things that has happened over the last 7 years has been the president sending our fighting men and women into combat with rules of engagement so strict that their arms are tied behind their back, that they cannot win, that they cannot fight, they cannot defend themselves. It is wrong, it is immoral, and in January 2017, it will end. America has always been reluctant to use military force. We are slow to anger. But if and when military force is required, we should use overwhelming force, kill the enemy, and then get the heck out. You know, tonight represents the continuation of what's been happening for a year in this Republican primary. A year ago, we started out with 17 candidates. Good people, a fantastic, deep field of young, dynamic leaders. We saw incredible people, and the entire course of the primary has been narrowing the field, and narrowing the field. What we saw on Super Tuesday, what we saw confirmed today, is that there is only one campaign that has beaten Donald Trump repeatedly, and there is only one campaign that can and will beat Donald Trump. So if you're one of the 65 to 70% of Republicans who recognize that Donald Trump is not the best candidate to go head-to-head with Hillary Clinton, that if Donald is our nominee, in all likelihood we lose, Hillary becomes president, we lose the Supreme Court for a generation, and we lose the Bill of Rights. You're not going to need to, because we're going to win the nomination. I want to speak to all the people here, all the people at home, all the people across the country who perhaps started this campaign supporting someone else. Perhaps you started supporting Jeb Bush or Chris Christie. Perhaps you started supporting Rick Santorum or Mike Huckabee or Carly Fiorina or Dr. Ben Carson or Rand Paul. All good, honorable, decent people. Perhaps right now you're still considering supporting Marco Rubio or John Kasich, good, honorable, decent people. But at this point, if we're going to beat Donald Trump, we've got to come together. We've got to come united. And our campaign is the one campaign that has beaten Donald not once, not twice, but in 7 different states across this country. So if you have supported someone else, we welcome you to our team. For those who came today and voted in Kansas, voted in Maine, who had been supporting others, thank you for joining our team. For those in Idaho, when you vote in Idaho, we're going to have a fantastic election day here in Idaho. And I want to ask each and every one of you not just to come out and vote, but to pick up the phone and call 5 other people, call 10 other people, call your friends, call your family, call your neighbors. Say, this election matters. It matters for me. It matters for my kids. It matters for my grandkids. If everyone in this room gets 10 other people to show up and vote, the men and women in this room can quite literally control the outcome of the election here in Idaho. This is a grassroots movement from the people. You know, the answer to our problems in this country is not any politician, it's not any political candidate. We've had 7 years of a self-centered narcissist in the White House. We've had 7 years of a president who believed that his election would magically stop the rise of the seas. And it's not going to be any politician, it's not going to be Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton, it's not going to be Donald Trump or me that turns this country around. The only force powerful enough to do it is we, the people, the American people. It's not about us, it's about you and your future and our future together. And you know, it took Jimmy Carter to give us Ronald Reagan. And I am convinced the most long-lasting legacy of Barack Obama is going to be a new generation of leaders in the Republican Party who stand and fight for liberty, who stand and fight for the Constitution, and who stand and fight for the Judeo-Christian values that built this great nation. Thank you, and God bless you.